we'll see what people
For
think.
waiting.
Hey guys, welcome to a new live session from NZ Pocket Guide, where we're going to go over plenty of travel news, things to do with New Zealand. And we're going to talk about traveling in New Zealand because it's what we do on this channel, because we kind of are the experts of traveling in New Zealand. Why were the experts, Laura? Why?
Well, this is Robin and I'm Laura, and we're the team behind NZPocketGuide.com, which is New Zealand's largest travel guide, because it literally has thousands and thousands of articles for you guys to scroll through, absolutely free to enjoy, and it's all about traveling in New Zealand. Of course, at the moment, the borders are still closed at the time of filming this is it still August? I think it's still August 2021. Yes. So although most of you cannot still come to New Zealand, it's never too early to plan the perfect trip to the country. And that's exactly what NZPocketGuide.com is for. And of course, if you're already in New Zealand, well, you probably already know about the website and are probably already using it because you're here. But otherwise, if you're not really into reading, this is what this live Q&A session is for, which we do every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time. And if you want to know what time that is in your time zone, there is a handy link in the description below, which tells you when our usual scheduled live sessions are in your selected time zone. So check that out. But otherwise, you can always subscribe to the channel. Click on the notification bell icon, and that way you'll get a notification when our upcoming live sessions are about to begin. So that's another way to make sure that you don't miss a live session. But how this works is basically get into the live chat and ask your New Zealand travel questions. But if you do miss the live session, you can always put your questions in the comments section of any of our YouTube videos, and we go through those during the live session as well if we have time. Which, yeah, I think we probably will.
We always have time for your questions, guys. There's never a time when we don't have time for your question. Don't scare people. All right, guys. So today we got quite a lot to talk about. Obviously, we're still in lockdown here in New Zealand, but we'll talk more about that during the travel news. It doesn't work. You can stop.
No.
Laura is not going to be able to see your chat. For some reason, the tablet is not working for us today, so I'm going to be reading everything. So we are starting with Morena from Extreme Talauta. What does Morena means, Laura?
It means good morning in the Maori language.
Okay, Nathan Bates says, Kia ora, good morning, Laura and Robin. How are you doing, Nathan? How is it going for you in Taupo? We also have Kiwi Lauren that says, hi, Robin and Laura. Lovely to see your faces on this fine Saturday afternoon in Canada and Sunday morning in New Zealand. Ta-da!
Yeah.
We have Sally Haig, which says, good morning. I hope you are both keeping well. We are. So Sally's from the UK and playing a trip in New Zealand. I'm remembering, Sally. Yeah. It's coming. And Clay from Dunedin, he says, morning all. How are you doing, Clay?
Morning.
So this is live session 142. And it looks like maybe I have figured out how to sort out color correction. So are we looking less orange and less terribly saturated today? We had a lovely gentleman last week that kind of gave us some tips. I wrote them down. He even messaged me on Facebook. And now, should be looking better. So are we looking better? Tell us now. Also, any of your... Kiwi Lauren says, you are looking perfectly colored today. So here you go.
Perfectly colored.
Perfectly colored. Look at that. It took us only 142 live sessions to solve this one out.
We're slow learners.
Yeah, very slow learner with the color correction. I tend to like things a bit too saturated. So that may be what it is. I do like when things pop. What else? What else has been happening? Yes, so this week, plenty of things are going to be happening on the channel as well. Right, Laura?
Yes, there is. So upcoming on the channel this week, our new videos are on Wednesday. We will be showing you our latest weekend getaway video, this time from Christchurch. So if you're ever based in Christchurch and you're looking to leave the city, then this video is going to show you the best places to go to.
Not right now, though. It is still alert level 4, and actually on Wednesday it's going to be alert level 3 in the South Island. So still can't just go on a holiday just yet, but, planning ahead.
Yes, like I said earlier in the live session, it's never too early to plan.
Yes.
All right. So
ask Sally, by the way. She's planning a trip for like
exactly
months and months from now.
And she's going to have the perfect trip in New Zealand, thanks to all that planning. All right, on Thursday, we are going to be taking you to the Waimangu Volcanic Valley, where once the Pink Terraces, which was one of the major geothermal attractions of New Zealand and the world, used to be, but Now they're not there anymore, but you can still
But
experience
they're back.
them.
They're back.
They're back,
They're
and
back,
you can
so here
still
you go.
experience them. So find out in the video that we're going to release on Thursday.
And that's going to be our pinkest thumbnail ever.
Yes.
Just saying.
And then on Saturday, we have our What Is It Really Like series continuing, and we're going to show you what it is really like to do blackwater rafting in Waitomo. And then just in between, we're still uploading our recap from New Zealand's biggest gap year, which for you guys that haven't seen it yet, that is when Robin and I did 365 days of 365 activities all around New Zealand, and we filmed the entire thing. So we're doing a recap of that crazy gap year that we did, and that's basically where we got all our knowledge about traveling in New Zealand, or at least some of our knowledge for traveling in New Zealand. So check out that recap as well.
Okay, Nathan Bass is asking, how many live streams are you planning on doing? So this is 142. How many more, Laura?
Until the end of time.
Wow. How many more Sundays, basically?
Yeah, I don't know. We just keep on going. I mean, even the global pandemic didn't stop us from doing these live sessions. So yeah. I think at this point, we actually are going to do it until we die.
To be fair, I mean, it's pretty boring right now. We're in lockdown in New Zealand and everything. We've been bored for the last, 2 weeks. So, yeah, that keeps us entertained,
Yeah.
I mean, we're glad to hang out with you guys. Okay, you know what? We're going to keep going until you guys become annoying. That hasn't started yet. Yeah. And we receive questions about the border about 4 times a live session. And we still are here, not even finding that annoying. Look at that. I don't think there's a plan of like when we're stopping and everything. If there is sometimes when we're traveling around, it's inconvenient for us to do it, so we may skip a week or two, but that doesn't mean we're not going to come back the week after. There is perhaps a week that we may be skipping at some point before the end of the year, if fingers crossed things get better, which doesn't look like it's happening, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. David Burrow says, I really enjoyed your interview with Pita Tofatofua from Tonga and its attraction. Just out of curiosity, how long is the flight from Auckland to Tonga?
I think it's only about 3 hours.
It's quite short.
Yeah.
People don't realize, I mean, New Zealand is quite isolated, yes, but people don't realize how close it actually is to quite a lot of the South Pacific countries. And so that gives New Zealand kind of a hub status around the South Pacific for some epic explorations around. So yeah, we really love the South Pacific. I mean, I don't know if you know, but we also have Tonga Pocket Guide, which is a complete guide to Tonga. And in there is an article on how to get to Tonga and flying there and the best airlines and all that. So you may want to check it out. So you go on Tonga Pocket Guide. I'll show you on screen. I'll figure it out. Okay, I'm going here. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. You should be seeing the screen right now. I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to go to tongapocketguide.com. Boom. That should come up right now because it's super fast internet right here.
We're waiting for that fiber to get installed, guys.
All right, cool. Look at my stupid face right here, enjoying some amazing food. Okay, so you can accept this thing if you want to. Then you click on transport right here. Oops. You don't do like me. You don't click. You just hover over it, and then you have flying to Tonga. And here you're going to have plenty of tips, which airline flight to Tonga, which airport to arrive, and everything like that. And even some tips to save money there. So here you go, mate, for you, David. But yeah, so about 3 hours, definitely worth taking a couple of weeks to explore Tonga when traveling to New Zealand. And there's also Niue. There's also plenty of other ones. Clay says they're back with a question mark. I don't know what he's talking about. They're back. I do not know. Context, Clay. Context. And while he gives us context, what about we do the travel news? It looks like you guys are slowly getting started today, so we'll kick that up with some travel news, and then we'll get back to the comments. So, let's get started. Welcome to New Zealand Travel News, the segment where we go over the news that people looking to travel to or around New Zealand may care about. We are the team behind New Zealand's largest travel guide, NZPocketGuide.com. I am Robin, and this is Laura.
All right, let's get started with some just a quick travel news titled Queenstown Loses Out with Cancellation of the Winter Pride Festival. This was published on RNZ Radio New Zealand on the 28th of August 2021. One of the biggest festivals on Queenstown's calendar has been cancelled as a result of Friday's lockdown announcement. The 10-day Winter Pride Festival had already been scaled back when the travel bubble with Australia was closed, and again when the lockdown was announced last week. Organizer Martin King said he was still hoping to hold a 4-day event, but yesterday's announcement means it's no longer possible. King said the festival will be able to refund some of the ticket price. Most of it is non-refundable.
Yeah, so on Friday, it was announced that the South Island will move on to only alert level 3, which still prohibits big gathering events, and for this reason, this was cancelled. And that's basically the big news of the week, and that kind of a perfect segue into the main story of this travel news this week, and it's the fact that New Zealand's border are still remaining closed because there has been a little bit of a lockdown, an outbreak here in New Zealand, and so what we decided to do right here, because that's the only travel news that we're going to be covering today, is this lockdown and what effect does it have on the New Zealand borders. We're going to go over a really good article on CNN, which covered pretty much the whole scope of this lockdown and its impact on the borders, and even the New Zealand psyche into COVID-19. And so we're going to go through the whole article, which is really long. We usually don't do that. We usually just do snippets, but we're going to go over all that, and it should give you an understanding of what this lockdown means for the New Zealand border opening. And I'll give a bit of our take on that at the end of that little segment. So bear with us. This is a very interesting article, and we're doing all the hard work. We're reading it for you.
Yes. Okay. So it's titled Delta Outbreak Tests New Zealand's Zero COVID Strategy, but Lockdown Has Broad Support at Home. This is written by Julia Hollingsworth, CNN, with collaboration from Angus Watson. When New Zealand went into lockdown last week over a single Delta case, critics were quick to mock the country's risk-adverse approach. British newspapers didn't hold back. The Times called New Zealand a mysterious socialist hermit nation, where the public languish in a COVID prison, while the Telegraph slammed a once welcoming country that had turned into an isolated dystopia. The reaction to New Zealand's approach speaks to a divide on how the countries across the world are handling COVID. More than 18 months into the pandemic, some countries, including the United Kingdom, have accepted they may never eliminate the virus, so instead they're learning to live with it. New Zealand, by contrast, is one of the few countries still committed to stamping out COVID. Hours after confirming the country's first Delta case in the community, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern ordered the entire nation into lockdown with the backing of a broad consensus across the political spectrum. 10 days later, the outbreak has spread to 347 cases, with one person in intensive care as of Friday.
So Fortress New Zealand, with some of the strictest restrictions in the world, has been breached. That's prompted questions over whether attempting to eradicate community transmission, known as the zero COVID strategy, still makes sense in a world swamped with the highly contagious Delta variant. For now, Ardern is doubling down on the strategy, even as neighboring Australia edges away from the approach. As for now, it seems that the public remains on board, even if it means being a hermit nation. But New Zealand's own COVID-19 response minister has indicated the approach may not last forever. The big question for New Zealand will be what its new strategy might look like.
All right, now we're moving on to what that strategy might look like, which is no urgency to reconnect. Until Delta arrived, New Zealand's tough border rules had protected it from the turmoil seen in most other countries. For most of the pandemic, the country has essentially operated as normal. Sports games, music festivals, public gatherings, and dining have all gone ahead, much the same way as they did before the pandemic. So far, New Zealand has recorded just over 3,000 cases and 26 deaths. But the comparatively low death toll has come at a cost. An estimated 1 million New Zealanders live overseas, nearly 600,000 in Australia, and many of New Zealand's 5 million residents have likely at least one friend or relative living overseas. Some haven't seen their loved ones in over a year. In March 2020, New Zealand closed its borders to almost all foreigners and later required almost all returning visitors to spend 2 weeks in managed isolation facilities at their own cost. Spaces are limited to around 4,000 rooms a fortnight, and just over 167,000 people have passed through managed isolation facilities since March 2020.
And those fortified borders have also created another major casualty, which is tourism. Once the country's largest export industry, overseas visitor arrivals slipped more than 98% in January 2021 compared with the year before. Despite that, New Zealand doesn't seem to be in any rush to reconnect with the world. There is even an us versus them mentality among some social media users who criticize overseas New Zealanders desperate to get home for not returning sooner. That's because many still believe that there is some upsides, that the upsides are worth it. A recent poll by public polling company Sticky Beak, sorry about that, found that 84% of people surveyed supported the decision to move into lockdown last week. A separate Sticky Beak poll showed only 1 in 4 wanted a travel bubble with Australia, which had allowed for quarantine-free travel between New Zealand and Australia to be reopened this year.
Okay, now let's look at how New Zealand has a different approach from Australia. New Zealand doesn't need to look far to know what can happen if the Delta virus takes hold. Neighbouring Australia, once a proponent of the zero COVID strategy, continues to battle a major Delta outbreak, recording another 882 locally transmitted cases in the state of New South Wales alone on Friday. One of Australia's biggest cities, Melbourne, has now spent nearly 7 of the past 20 months in lockdown, according to Australia Broadcasting Corporation's calculations. In the past few weeks, New South Wales Premier has conceded that the state will need to learn to live with the virus. Last weekend, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the country needed to change its focus from cases to hospitalizations, mirroring Singapore's tone in June when the city-state said it would need to learn to live with the virus. Under our national plan, when we start hitting the 70% and 80% vaccine targets, we can start claiming back what COVID has been taking away from us. And when we do so, we must not be intimidated by the case numbers that will inevitably increase, Morrison wrote in an op-ed distributed to local media.
All right, but New Zealand is in a different situation from its neighbouring Australia. While New Zealand went into national lockdown within hours from its first Delta case, New South Wales took 10 days to impose lockdown across Greater Sydney, and even then, the rules were more relaxed than what New Zealand had. By then, the contagious variant had taken a hold, leaving Australia with little choice but to recalibrate. And here's a quote: "Now they're struggling to keep it under control," the University of New South Wales epidemiologist Professor Mary Louise McLaws, an expert in infection prevention, said this week. "I can't see them getting back to zero. I think it's too late." And that's not the case in New Zealand yet.
Okay, Sean Hendy, a Country 19 modeller at the Auckland University, said the country's swift response would likely allow a return to zero COVID cases. Certainly with Delta, the idea is that you can ratchet up your response to Delta as the outbreak grows. That just simply hasn't been the case in New South Wales, he said. If you're able to pull it off, elimination was definitely the right approach, said Hendy. I don't think it's inevitable that we'll have a Delta outbreak that gets out of control. Epidemiologist Michael Baker, who advises the government on its COVID strategy, told national broadcaster Radio New Zealand this week that elimination has been the optimal strategy up until now by every indicator we can use. Elimination is technically possible. It's being achieved across the region. I'm confident it will be achieved again in New Zealand, he said.
All right, so that brings us to the main question, for the post-COVID world, right? Is when are we going to drop the zero COVID strategy and start living with COVID? So the Australian Prime Minister Morrison has criticized the idea of pursuing an elimination strategy forever, calling it absurd. COVID is a new, different world. We need to get out there and live with it. We can't stay in a cave, and we can get out of it safely, he said this week. While New Zealand hasn't gone that far yet, New Zealand's COVID-19 response minister, Chris Hipkins, said the Delta variant raised questions about the long-term viability of the elimination strategy. And so he said, it does mean that all of our existing protections start to look less adequate and less robust, he said. As a result of that, we are looking very closely at what more we can do here. But it does raise some very big questions about the long-term future of our plans. Neither country is opening up right now, and doing so will be deadly. Okay, so after struggling to get supplies, New Zealand has one of the lowest COVID-19 vaccination rate in the OECD, with just over 20% of the population fully immunized. Australia, which also had some vaccine problems, isn't much further ahead, with only about 25% of the entire population immunized. The government figures put the number of fully vaccinated adults at 33%, and it's opening up its contingent on that figure, reaching 70 to 80%. That's for Australia. New Zealand has not announced any figures that they are targeting for, and they've been staying quite far away from announcing any figure they're targeting for. Now, but while Australia has signaled how it could move away from a zero COVID strategy over the next few months, there is little clarity about when New Zealand will do so itself.
Okay. Across the world, experts have said that COVID may be like the flu in the future, something that can kill, but something we can live with. Hendy has another comparison. Once New Zealand has high rates of vaccination, perhaps 70 to 80%, COVID could be treated like the measles. We don't lock down for the measles, but we also don't tolerate it in the community. We mount a public health response to eliminate measles when we have an outbreak. Earlier this month, a strategic COVID-19 public health advisory group said the elimination strategy could still continue, even after New Zealand reopens its borders. On its website, the Ministry of Health explains that it will use a combination of border rules, vaccinations, and public health measures to keep people safe from COVID. The country will still try to stamp out the virus, but it may mean it relies less on lockdowns. Our elimination strategy has proved its worth and remains an achievable goal even when the current border restrictions are eased, the Ministry of Health says on its website. In short, New Zealand is not planning to live with COVID in the same way as other countries. That may offer the potential for life to go on largely as it did before the pandemic, but it means the immediate future of it being mostly closed to the world.
So that's the end of the article right here. And as you can see, it was a very comprehensive article on CNN. I'll put a link in the description of this video if you guys want to look into it and read it yourself. But we read pretty much most of it. We just removed a couple of quotes that were just a lot of extra because we already talked about that article for about 10 minutes now. All right, so what is there to take out of this analysis, which is actually quite in-depth and quite good? First up, New Zealand is in absolutely no hurry to open up its border. So we did cover the big announcement that last month happened when the Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, had kind of a look at what the future of the New Zealand borders might be. And, that was pre-lockdown, that was pre this outbreak, right? And so it does look like this will take a big back seat until things are under control in New Zealand, then things will happen as well. Now, is New Zealand looking for 70%, 80%, 90% vaccination rate before reopening its border? We don't know just yet. She absolutely refuses to say any number right now. They just say that they want as many people vaccinated as possible. Now, will New Zealand have stricter rules and stricter controls when coming to the country compared to other countries? Yes, it is likely that New Zealand will have stricter rules than other countries in the world for several reasons. First up, these have worked very well politically for the people in charge right now. The New Zealand public is very much behind this lockdown policy, this COVID stamping out policy and everything like that. So the New Zealand public is very much behind it. And politicians, well, they tend to listen to the polls quite well because that's basically their bread and butter. So as long as the public is behind it, they probably will continue with that. Another reason is that New Zealand is the big gateway. It's a big hub for the South Pacific. There is a lot of islands in the South Pacific which pretty much have connection only through New Zealand and sometimes through Australia, right? So it's basically kind of buffer region between the South Pacific and the rest of the world. And for this reason, New Zealand doesn't only have a responsibility for its own citizens and New Zealanders in general, it also has a responsibility toward the South Pacific to keep it safe from any of the other disease that could happen or anything like that. So for this reason, our government is taking that even more seriously. So now what does it mean about, people which are work visa and that want to come to New Zealand and all these things? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is not going to be any pathways to come to New Zealand, but it also means that there is not going to be any certainty for a long time to come. Now, the pathway may include having to stay in managed quarantine, having to actually have a proof of vaccines, any of those kind of things. Nothing has been set in place just yet. But one of the most important ways that New Zealand government is going to decide if you are allowed to come to the country or not is probably going to be the response from your country toward COVID and how your country is handling the pandemic. If your country has one of the most contagious variants ramping around the country, it is highly likely that the New Zealand border will be shut to people which have spent the last month over there. And it may mean that you have to go through transit countries, stay there, maybe, and then you can come to New Zealand. It may mean that if you are an essential worker, somebody which is critically needed in New Zealand, you can come to New Zealand, but you have to stay in the quarantine. Again, usually the quarantines are at your own cost, and the cost is usually about 3,300 New Zealand dollars. So there is a lot of conditions, a lot of hoops to jump through. So the hoops to jump through to come to New Zealand will be greater and will be greater both in hardness and in numbers as well. So so that's basically kind of what we're seeing as happening in the future. I think that it is safe to say that the announcement that we covered when New Zealand was talking about its different plan, with different tiers of countries and everything for reopening the border, this is still holding ground. This will still happen, but it may be pushed forward more, backward more in time, and it may only start in mid 2022, or depending on how New Zealand is handling that outbreak as well. Anyway, I hope that this insightful article gave you a little bit of understanding about the situation here in New Zealand. We thought we'd take the time to go over all that since there is not extra travel news right here, and I hope that our analysis of it as well help you understand if you can come to New Zealand or not. In the meantime, I hope that you did find this video useful. That wraps up this new segment. Don't forget to like and subscribe to reward all our hard work and to stay up to date with our video. Plus, check out nzpocketguide.com for thousands of tips, hidden gems, and much more. Let's go back to the live chat. That was a big one. Whew.
Yes.
All right. Clay was talking about the ping pools. He said, are they back? Yes, they are back, but you'll have to watch the video to see how and why they're back. Well, they're not really back, but they're back. Adil from South Africa says, Kia ora, from a rather cold Saturday night here in South Africa. By the way, you will need this. This is why I gave you the phone. Kimi Lauren says, ridiculous, and she's talking about the COVID comments. She said, ridiculous. I wish Saskatchewan in Canada will treat COVID as seriously as New Zealand. So, boom, here you go. Clay has a question about some spots in New Zealand, and he says, I was looking around on Google Map as I usually do to pass time. I usually look for things off the beaten track. Somehow, I ended up in Whangaroa Harbour and Taupo Bay. I never heard of it. It looks nice. Is there much there?
Well, we do have an article on nzpocketguide.com
Wow.
it's not the longest article, but 5 things to do in Whangaroa. But they are pretty amazing things to do there. So, I don't read this. Thank you very much.
Wow.
I know a thing or two about New Zealand, Robin.
I thought you needed to load the article on the phone, but that's
there are a few things to do there, what the major things there is there are a couple of really beautiful scenic hikes to do in the area. So Robin will get that up on screen now.
The St. Paul Rocks track.
Yes.
Which goes with a nice view. There is also fishing to do there. There is a Wairako Stream and a Lane Cove track. There is also the Duke's Nose track, which is one that we did, which is only about 45 minutes. That's a short walk. That's your classic New Zealand bush walk. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, and it also has some beautiful beaches in true Northland style as well.
Yeah.
It's just that's also what makes it so scenic on the hikes. You can see all the different bays and sort of intricate inlets and such. It's mainly you go there basically because it's a very scenic coastal area. Usually good weather because it is in Northland, which tends to have the warmest weather. And if you are doing a road trip around the Northland region, then it's definitely worth popping by. It is off the beaten track, but it really is. It's more of a hidden gem in Northland. People just tend to go there for the Bay of Islands, then go to Cape Reinga, then they come back to Auckland. But if you do have more time to explore the area than that, it really is a good hidden gem.
is pouring down with rain.
I know, I can hear it. Yeah,
I started hunting like roar and thunder. It's absolutely crazy. Okay, where are we else? You can also in Whangaroa Harbour, you can hop on the boat. There's some boat tours and everything if you want to do a bit
the
of
odd fishing charter, as there always is.
Of course, there is always a way to get on the water in New Zealand. I mean, you know that, right? Kimi Loren says, random memory from 2007 and 2010. The global gossip cafes. Oh, I remember that. I remember you bought a card. It was like everywhere in the wire chain and everything. You bought a card.
Yeah.
You scratch a number. You had like 250 MB, and you had to pay like $10.
You have 7 days to use it up.
I know.
And then you could take that global gossip card to the next base hostel or something that you went to. Yeah.
So he says, well, you could buy cards for internet time. Yes, I assume those are no more as technology advances everywhere has Wi-Fi. Yeah, no, those things are. This is the kind of company which are really come to pass. It's like in America, they have like Blockbusters, which are now all closed, but where you could rent VHS and DVDs and everything like that. And the Netflix came and killed it. But that's such a trip down memory lane.
But surprisingly, what date did you say that was?
2007, 2010.
So that they were even still happening in hostels. I only started traveling around New Zealand in around 2015, and they were still around then. And I think that they've only maybe in the last 4 years they've started to die off. But
there is even now there's still some hostel that use a company called Zenbu, which gives you a voucher. It's terrible. Anyway, it's absolutely terrible. But that's kind of like such a trip down memory lane to go to like those kind of places, global gossip. Yeah, and even like even when I was younger, I used to go to cyber cafes where you had like better computer at home and you had like better internet. Oh, that was fun time.
That's quite interesting as well, because I've been obviously doing a lot more articles for some of our South Pacific websites that we have, like Fiji, Tonga, and Niue. And specifically in Fiji, if you want to be able to find internet in any town or anything, there are still internet cafes. Like that is where you need to go to get internet if you are in a place like Fiji. And if you don't have internet at your accommodation, then your only other real option is to go to an internet cafe, which there's usually about 2 or 3 in the main towns.
Such a true down memory. That's so funny. By the way, can you guys hear the rain? Because it's almost deafening right now. So it may not be ideal. I apologize for the sound if the sound is terrible. But at least we have better color now. So here you go.
We can't get everything right.
Yes, we have to have something going wrong all the time. Anyway, so Clay says, whoa, blast from the past, Lauren. I remember late 90s into 2000s going to internet cafes to get my fix of MSN Messenger or print article to read later or for school or something. Yeah, that's funny. And then he says, they're all chatting about that. Rajan says, sorry, I just joined. In case I missed, any hearsays on student entry to New Zealand?
Well, in short, no hearsay on student entry into New Zealand. The borders are still closed. But if you do want to rewind a little bit earlier into this live session, we do sort of in our travel news section or segment, we talk extensively about what the future is, speculating what the future might be looking like for borders opening in New Zealand. But if you want to get some up-to-date information, we will always guide you towards the Ministry of Education website, and that is where they're going to have some...
that was my cue. Sorry, coming.
That is where they're going to have more information, more dedicated to international students and the borders opening in terms for them. But basically, we can't give you any good news this week, I'm afraid. We'll keep our fingers crossed, but I think for the rest of the year, for the rest of 2021, it doesn't look like anything is going to be changing. Of course, you might have already heard that New Zealand is back down in lockdown within the country itself. So not only are the borders closed, but
here you go.
Now New Zealand is in lockdown itself. So that's kind of put any plans that of the borders opening more setback. So
So it's not likely that it's going to happen this year. I mean, it's unlikely. It's pretty much sure it's not happening this year. And then consider like at least mid next year. They need to get their ducks in orders in order to get things sorted. And it looks like the plan has been changed a lot by the lockdown that has been happening. We're still in lockdown right now. Where we are in New Zealand, we're still in lockdown until Tuesday. And then we are going to an alert level 3, which is basically lockdown. It's just we can order takeaway starting on Tuesday. We don't have to eat Laura's fried rice. which
It was pretty bad last night. It wasn't my best.
it's the one-off. Usually she cooks very well. Actually, and beforehand, I cooked for most of the week. Actually, that was your first time cooking in a while, wasn't it?
Yeah,
You were
maybe
just
that's
really
what it
rusty.
is.
You
I'm
were
out of
rusty.
practice.
Yeah.
Robin's been taking over all the cooking because I've been doing more sort of writing articles and doing a lot of work. So Robin, being very kind that he is, said, I'll take over all the food for the next month. And then as soon as I get back to doing food again, I've completely lost it.
But that's okay. There is going to be better days ahead.
Yeah.
Look at that. We can order takeaway starting on Tuesday.
We will not be ordering takeaway.
I'm joking. All right. Kiwi Lauren actually informs me that there is one single blockbuster left in the US. Really?
Isn't it in Alaska? Or maybe that was like one that was getting closed down. But there was...
Oh, that's the one that John Oliver sent the jockstrap of Mel Gibson from a movie. Yes, I remember that. Oh my God, that's funny. Okay, that is definitely New Zealand news right here. A jockstrap from Mel Gibson sent by, which is an Australian guy, sent by an English guy to an Alaskan blockbuster.
It wasn't Mel Gibson. It was the other sort of Russell Crowe, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, maybe. There you go. Another Australian.
New Zealander.
Is Russell Crowe New Zealand?
I think he was originally from
Oh
New
yeah,
Zealand.
yeah, he's New Zealander. That's
He
true.
features on our article of celebrities from New Zealand. So I hope he is from New Zealand.
Yes. You've done the research, you know it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Kiwi Lauren has another memory. She says, I remember also being especially pissed off when I got stuck on the Kiwi Experience bus, knowing that the trip I was heading for was cancelled, and I got stuck in Bulls of all place. No puns. Those puns annoyed me. Oh, come on. The puns are funny. The puns are funny.
What did you do in Bulls?
Yes.
Maybe you were stuck in Bulls.
Yes.
I have to say, that's a place we don't have an article on. You know, we have the 5 things to do in Whangaroa, but not 5 things to do in Bulls. No.
I don't think there's 5. There's a Bulls museum.
There's a museum. You can go and check out the puns.
Yes.
You can go to McDonald's.
Yeah, you can fill up the tank.
Fill up your gas tank, and you can...
It's not too
There's
far
a
from
giant-
River Valley. You can shoot up to River Valley. That's probably why
that's
she
like
got.
still about 2 hours away.
I know, but that's probably where the QX bus was.
Maybe,
so,
yeah.
Okay, Rajan says gracias in a true New Zealand fashion. This is how you say thank you. Good job. Clay says, I'm surprised this week's news segment didn't have many mention about spreading your legs. Yeah, you bet that. There's not much about walking around in New Zealand at the moment.
Yeah.
Says, nervously hoping you haven't missed that one. That would be awkward. No, I didn't miss it. Look at that. I got it.
Did you get it though? I didn't get it. Spreading your legs.
Spreading like walking around? No. Okay, I didn't.
No, I
didn't
don't
get
think
it.
we. I actually don't think we know what you're referring to.
What?
I don't think you mean like stretching your legs.
Oh yeah,
No,
so no,
that's what the
spreading your
phrase
legs. That's
is.
awkward.
Yeah, that is awkward. Give us more context, please.
Yes, please.
I'm
Okay.
intrigued.
Okay, they talk about even Lauren got in Canada. I don't know what you're talking about. You know what? I don't know that pun. I just don't.
Oh,
I don't think I
wow.
have the common culture. I'm sorry.
Is this like the latest meme that I missed? I'm not. Robin's usually on the ball with that, but
On memes.
yeah,
Okay.
you know all the memes.
Kiwi Lauren says the pun in Bulls were funny when I was in a better mood. I hated them on that day. Oh yeah, okay. Cool.
I mean, everywhere you turn, you see another pun, and there's like ah.
All right, while Lauren and Clay are giving us some context, what is? I had some stuff to say today. I can't remember. Okay, let's go to. We have a question for a guy called Jimmy, aren't we?
Yes, we do. All right. Would you like to read it out, since I will be the one probably answering this question?
Okay. Kiwi Lauren said this is something that somebody in New Zealand said on the news, and it was hilarious.
Oh,
Okay.
there's probably somewhere on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I googled it.
Yeah.
I have to say the extent of me watching New Zealand TV is no, right? So I get all my news in a reading form because I just can't really handle the New Zealand TV because they turn news into jokes, and it's not really journalism good enough. So
News is not a joking matter,
yeah,
people.
I don't know. I just can't stand it. We actually, just something about us, about the two of us. We're not connected to the TV. We can't watch.
We don't
TV.
have an aerial.
Yeah, we can't watch TV, and we don't have the digital version as well. We do not have TV. We have TV screen in which we watch movie and play video games and everything like that. But we get all our news and everything through the internet. We do not watch TV pretty much anytime. So yeah, so that's why TV references are often lost on us because no TV. All right, good question from Jimmy. So if you guys cannot make it to a live session, that's okay. You absolutely can ask us all your questions anyway, and you can put them in the comments of any of our videos, and then we print them, and then we answer them in the live session. And so like that, you can rewatch it and get all our answers. So Jimmy says, "Hi, I am planning on doing a few multi-day hikes this summer, and so that you can get a hut pass to stay in the hiking trails hut. Are they worth it? If so, how do they work?"
All right.
How did it work, Laura? The base, like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
So, yes or no? Is it worth it?
It depends.
Well, we'll say it's not yes or no. Okay.
It's a complex answer.
So let's start with, is it worth it? That's the first part of his question.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll just explain it the way. I'll get to it whether it's worth it.
Okay, you know what you want then.
I'll do me. Okay. So first of all, I mean, if you look at the facts that New Zealand does have around 950 huts along their walking trails. So that's a lot of huts that, that are around New Zealand, and the Backcountry Hut Pass, sort of at face value, you can basically use them at huts for as many different huts as you like for a set amount of time that you buy the pass for. So the Backcountry Hut Pass, you can either get a 6-month pass or an annual pass. And just so you know, around prices at the moment, of course, prices can change. So this is as of 2021. The 6-month pass for an adult is 108 New Zealand dollars, and for youth, which is between 11 and 17 years old, it's 54 New Zealand dollars. And then for the annual pass, that's 144 New Zealand dollars, and for youth, that is 72 New Zealand dollars. So just to let you know that sort of the prices, that's the first thing to sort of take into account. Now, whether it is worth it or not depends, because this hut pass actually excludes a lot of huts, and it might be the sort of more sort of popular huts, the huts that you're more likely to use in New Zealand. So let's just go through the hut pass exclusions. So the Backcountry Hut Pass does not include Great Walk huts. So any huts along any of the Great Walk trails, so anything like the Routeburn Track, the Milford Track, the Abel Tasman Coastal Track, for example, doesn't apply to any of those huts. Also serviced alpine huts. So you might have heard of the Muella hut, which is in Mount Cook. It's a really popular hut to go up to in a beautiful alpine area. You can't use it there. The private and club huts on Dockland, sole occupancy accommodation and lodges, and popular huts in between the peak season, which is in October 1st till April 30th. So
I like the generic term popular huts. If it's popular, you can get
it. Well, it does have on the dock website, and also we've listed it on NZPocketGuide.com. We've listed all those popular huts, so you can actually look up the names of those huts. I could go through them now, or shall we just just refer to
there's a link in the description, guys. You can go with this one. Otherwise, we'll be here for half an hour, and you guys, your time is valuable.
Your time is valuable indeed. So bearing in mind that there's a lot of huts that you can't use this hut pass in, but there is still hundreds that you can use them in. So if you plan on staying in huts that are eligible with the hut pass, which is most of the huts in New Zealand, then the hut pass can be actually really good value if you are staying in at least 10 serviced huts within, say, a year, which is the annual pass. Bearing in mind that service huts are about 15 New Zealand dollars per person, per adult staying in a hut. You can stay in there for about 10 times, and that makes up your hut pass for the year, for example. So that is only really when it's worth it. If you are doing some of the multi-day trails around New Zealand that aren't the most popular, that aren't really busy, or the Great Walks, anywhere else, it would definitely be worth it. But if you are planning on doing any of the hikes to the sort of more, the really popular trails and the Great Walks, then in that case, you would have to pay extra anyway to go and stay in those huts. So in that case, it probably wouldn't be worth it. So just make sure that you do plan what sort of hikes you want to be doing. throughout the year and see if it would be worth it for you. Now, how do they work was another part of the question. So if you do have a hut pass, how can you actually use it? So you can use it online. So a lot of the huts in New Zealand, you do have to book online or at a dock information centre before you arrive. And doing it online is really easy. You actually, the main way to buy a hut pass is online through the dock booking website. And so buying it online, there's always an option when you're booking your hut pass to use your hut pass code, and you can do it easily that way. Otherwise, are just showing up to a hut, if it's not a bookable hut, and you show up there, then they have book logs in each of the huts, and all you have to do is basically write down your hut pass number and your name into the logbook. If there's a hut warden there, they may ask for some ID, so it is recommended by the dock to have some ID and a printout of your hut pass as well, just to show them, just in case. And finally, how to buy a hut pass. If you do think it is worth it for you, then how do you actually buy them? And like I say, the easiest way, and the way that most people do it, is online through the Department of Conservation website, which we do have links to via the website, the NZ Pocket Guide, that we're going to link to in the description below. So that's a very easy booking system where you just pay via your Visa or MasterCard, etc., etc. And after you pay for it, they will send you a PDF of your dock hut pass, and it's easy as that. Make sure you print it out and take it with you on the hiking trails. But if you don't have access to internet, or you can't make out what the hell the website is and how you can work it, then you can actually buy a hut pass from a Department of Conservation visitor centre. So you can buy them from a visitor centre, or you can call either the Wellington Visitor Centre or the Whangaroa Visitor Centre, which is in Thames in the Bundle. You can give them a call and they can buy it for you online, for you through the phone.
Okay.
That's how you could, that's just another way. So if you're struggling, they have other options. So in short, that is how the dock hut passes work, and whether it's worth it really depends on which trails you're doing. If you're doing great walks and the popular hikes, probably not worth it. If you're going off the beaten, doing lots of different multi-day hikes around the country, then it does work for most huts. So in that case, it would be worth it.
Nice. So that is everything you need to know about the dock hut passes. If you want some more information, there is a link in the description and also somewhere above our head with the article on NZ Pocket Guide, with ton of information. It's the largest travel guide to New Zealand. There's plenty here. And if you find our video useful, like and subscribe. It's a great way to say thank you for all our hard work. And in the meantime, we'll get back to the live chat. So we're having a full discussion. Apparently, it's Chris Hipkins that said spread your legs. And apparently there is George FM that runs a competition to create a remix and everything like that about it. That was on the last Sunday's 1 p.m. update. So I watch those things. I don't think I really noticed. I'm focused on, I take notes, and I'm focused on the stuff, for all those news
As
segments.
As we said, no jokes are allowed during the news. We have to take it seriously. So even if they say something like that,
no, jokes are allowed. If it's an actual news program which does good jokes, such as John Oliver, that is very funny. Last week tonight.
It has to be in the right context.
Exactly. So yeah. Anyway. Who else do we have? We have Anthony Comstock that says, sorry I'm late. Morena from Rodeo, California, but I'm in a hospital, so I lost track of time, but I'm here until the end. Are you okay? I hope you are in hospital to, I don't hope, but maybe to visit friends or relatives or to work or something. Anything not too bad?
Basically, what he's trying to say is we hope that you are okay and healthy and you're not.
What she says much better than me.
Trouble.
Much better. This is why she does most of the talking today. Okay. So I put the poll. I put the poll up. By the way, that's the thing I forgot when I said I forgot something. So there's a poll up right now if you prefer the last color correction or this color correction. So go ahead, tell us what's in the poll. And Clay says you need a third option. I didn't notice the difference. It looks good. You didn't notice the difference? It took multiple people. I can't remember his name. Sadly, it just skipped my brain. But I'm gonna say thank you to Sahid Ali. He's the guy that helped me with all the settings and everything. So Sahid, you rock. Okay. Anthony says he's fine. He just got a leg cramps and trying to get over it. So okay, that's good. That's not too bad. So
Yeah.
good. All right. Cool. So today you guys are pretty quiet. It's kind of interesting. We literally had like basically about one screen worth of comments. So yeah, there is 13 of you guys right here. So if you do have some last minute questions, we only have about 10 minutes left with you guys. So if you have some last minute questions about traveling in New Zealand, go nuts. We're here to answer all of them for you guys. I know it has been a bit of a painful time traveling in New Zealand, even hoping to come to travel to New Zealand. And this extra lockdown is kind of like a big moral bummer.
Yes, it's been a kick in the teeth. It has.
Yes, it has been. And in the guts, and in the groin, and kicks everywhere.
Yeah.
All bruised everywhere. So yeah. So I know it has been a bit hard to kind of look forward to kind of traveling to New Zealand, but there is an end, right? The vaccination rates in New Zealand are going up. Not as fast as we hope, but they are going up, and this means that there is going to be much more safety in, community herd, and therefore there may be an end to things. It has changed a lot of our plans as well. We had some plans to go and cover more of the South Pacific Islands for you guys and create some more of the travel guides, but we may have to postpone them. We still have the plans. Maybe that's going to hold.
Yeah,
but probably not. It's just how it is. Also, I think I need you guys to start asking about the New Zealand borders as well, because Clay is still sober. No one has asked today.
Well,
That's
someone
crazy.
asked about students coming to New Zealand.
That's not the border. He doesn't get a shot.
I see that as a very similar.
I mean, now you're pushing him into alcoholism now.
Yeah.
Before it was normal.
Yeah.
It was the normal thing to do, drinking at 8 a.m. when someone asks him no. Now you're pushing him into alcohol. Actually, Clay says, when will the border open? He asked him quiet today.
Yeah.
And Nathan says, I'm getting my first vaccine on Wednesday. Interesting. Clay, which is also in New Zealand. So Nathan is a local in Taupo. So we are around the Taupo region as well. So Laura and I have both been fully vaccinated for over a month now. Nathan is getting his first vaccine on Wednesday, which is awesome, Nathan.
Yeah.
That's really good. Clay, are you vaccinated yet? Is Lou, I think that's the name of your partner, is she vaccinated as well? I'd love to know if you guys are vaccinated if you're in New Zealand. But yeah, the vaccination rate is slow as well in New Zealand, just because also we need the capacity, the amount of vaccination staff that can cover, and there is also this thing, because it's not the lack of vaccine. We do have good intake of vaccine, and we use pretty much everything we get, and we even give some to the South Pacific Islands as well. So we do have the vaccine. It's not the fact the government is failing in that end. It's just the amount of people that can just inject other people with fluid.
There's always been a skill shortage of, in the healthcare profession. So nurses and stuff are always considered a skills shortage in New Zealand. So I can see why that may be a problem.
Here you go. Oh, we got a travel question. Tamo Sirac, he's back. Da-da-da. So, Tamo, give us a bit of context about your trip as well. I asked the same thing to Sally last week. Tell us where you're from, how long you want to come, and why you're coming, and everything like that. So you kind of help us a little bit, kind of remember you and kind of have context when you ask questions. Because I'm guessing you're going to come regularly, since we talked about it last time. And you say, "Oh, I'll come regularly." So he says, "Greeting from Mr. Overplanner." He says, I wanted to ask if I can rely on good old credit card during New Zealand trip, or if I'm better off with cash money. We do have a video about that, but do you want to cover that a little bit?
So you can rely on credit cards in New Zealand. New Zealand is very much a card nation. Locals prefer to carry cards rather than cash. But of course, if you are using an overseas credit card, then there's always going to be the disadvantage of credit card fees being added to every single purchase that you make. So, I mean, while using debit cards and credit cards that are from New Zealand is a really good and easy way to pay for things in New Zealand. If you are using stuff from overseas, then it is probably going to end up being quite expensive, and you're going to be paying sort of fees that you could otherwise avoid if you do alternatively, withdraw a good amount of cash to last you like a few days, and then just make another withdrawal, and that sort of fee will amount to much lower than paying a credit card fee for every single transaction that you do.
Yeah. So and also the local credit card called FPOS, Electronic Financial Processing Operating System, whatever.
Yes.
Anyway, so it's called FPOS. But yeah, so I think if you're just coming for holiday, I will come with cash. I think I will do that. It will save you a great amount of money, and so I think it wouldn't be worth kind of swiping it every single time, adding 5% to your trip. A trip to New Zealand still costs quite a fair amount of money. So I think 5% maybe. I think it's too much.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Anthony says, here in America, we are already talking about getting booster shots starting by the end of this month. Yeah, well, I've heard that a lot, and I'm reading, obviously, a lot of news, not funny ones.
Only serious stuff.
But yeah, reading a lot of news, and a lot of countries start doing that and talking about boosters and everything. It hasn't really been talked too much about in New Zealand. During some of the updates, when the Prime Minister sits in front of a bunch of journalists and give an update to the nation pretty much every day, like, I didn't say every 2 days, but every day. Sometimes the journalists ask and everything, but she always dodges the question with something generic into like, oh, right now we're just looking at the advice, we're taking advisement, blah, blah, blah. So there hasn't been anything kind of specific said just yet about the booster shot. Clay says, so Clay is a local in Dunedin, so his vaccine story. He says, I became eligible on Thursday or whenever it was. I got it on Friday. Well, that was quick.
That was fast.
He says, second one in a few weeks. Lou, which is his wife, works at the hospital, so she was fully vaccinated for some time now. So here you go. Says, how did you guys manage to get it so early, if you don't mind me asking? Pull some strings. No, I'm joking. So where we live, we're actually living in a small town, and our community is considered at risk. So basically, our local health board, when they received the vaccine, they were like, you know what? It's going to be easier if we just accept everybody to get vaccinated. So we literally just started to book online, and there was a lot of spots available. So I think that we're in a community where first there's a lot of people at risk, and also there is not that much vaccine intake. So it's a lot of a larger family and everything, and they all want to go together. So since the kids couldn't go, and other people, so it was kind of like a little bit of a mix of reasons, and so. Therefore, we got to do the vaccine kind of super early. I mean, there is a video on the channel of us going to get the vaccine if you want to watch that. But yeah, so that's basically it. It was available to us, and we just received a text from our local health board that says, "Hey, book your vaccine now," and we literally just click
open to all ages for it.
So yeah, and to be fair, they have not run out of vaccine, or they haven't had any issue. They haven't opened like now some drive-through vaccines in the community as well to try to get more people in. I
saw from the local medical center on their Facebook page. They said that they vaccinated like 950 people just sort of over the weekend.
Through the new drive-through.
Through the drive-through, yeah.
So they've done a drive-through, and so they get like 900 people on board, which is really good. And so they're doing a lot of effort to get as many people vaccinated, regardless of age and any other factors. And I think, in my opinion, I think that was good. And so that's why we got the vaccine quite early.
Yeah.
Good times. Cool. We have Reman 2016. It's changed to 2021 now. It says, any updates on applying for visa applications?
Unfortunately, there has been no updates for visa applications. Of course, is just concentrating on visa applications for people that are basically in the country, that are needing to stay in the country, or for, essential workers type thing. But basically, while the borders are closed, that means that they're not processing visas for people, because basically people can't come into the country, and they still don't know when the borders are going to be open. So yeah, they haven't been processing visas for a long time for overseas visas, and still no information on when that's going to happen.
Clay is asking a follow-up question about the vaccine. Did you have your second dose yet? Yes, we did have our second dose probably about a month ago, I'd say. Something like that. So we're fully immune since quite a while, like well before the lockdown and everything like that. So yeah, we've done all that. And then Riemann says, it's been 2 years not processing. It is forever going to be like that. Is it forever going to be like that? Hey, listen, we don't really know. I know I know it has been a pain, but the good news, it's probably bad news, but the good and bad news is that Immigration New Zealand is also starting to look at some really old application, just cancelling it together and refunding the fee. So at least, even if it's going to be a forever situation and it's not going to happen, at least you get your application feedback. So that's a good news. It's a bad good news, but you know what I mean.
It's something.
Yeah. Kiwi Loren says, "Hey Robin."
Hey Robin.
He says our son Reed is starting maternelle, which is kindergarten, on Friday, and he's in French immersion. He'll be speaking your language.
Ooh.
He already does some because he's going to French daycare. Well, give him 6 months. And he speaks better French than me, even in kindergarten, because I don't practice enough. So
Do you speak like a French kindergartner?
I got
Gardener.
I
can't even say kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
Yeah, we don't say kindergarten in the UK. We say
Preschool?
nursery school
Don't you
or
say
nursery
preschool?
or preschool. Yeah, but back in my day, we used to say it was nursery.
Oh yeah,
We're
back
going to
in ancient
nursery.
time.
Yeah, in ancient times.
Yeah, Laura was born in like downtown Abbey style.
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
just picture that. This is where Laura's from. All right, and Clay says that's good. I didn't think you guys were pushing retirement nor look sick. Yeah, well, you know, I'm older than I look, so here you go. Maybe I am in my what's the current
You're
age?
older than you look. Wow, yeah, because you look so dashingly
I
young.
know, but you know, like it's kind of, I think it's up to 60 or 40. I don't know, but yeah, I'm older than I look. I know, like so. Woo! Anyway, on those silly jokes, guys, I know it has been a slow live session today, but you know that's the thing. We can't travel around New Zealand. Nobody can travel around New Zealand, so
Just
we get it.
life in general in New Zealand right now is very slow.
Yeah, it's
So,
at a standstill. It definitely is
yes.
at a standstill. You know. Yeah, so we'll have another day of shoveling dirt in the garden and having fun doing some projects like that. Yay!
Yeah. Well,
And,
not today, since we could literally hear the rain
my God,
through,
that was
through
big.
the house.
Yeah. All right, guys. So everybody stay safe outside. We'll be coming back to you guys next week at exactly the same time. In the meantime, we have a full program of awesome videos to show you some things to look forward to when traveling in New Zealand this entire week. So I hope you're going to enjoy those ones. And yeah, if you want to support the channel, like the video, share some of videos on social media, share some of NZ Pocket Guide article on social media. You know, find some places you really like and share it. And yeah, awesome times. In the meantime, we see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Lauren says, have a great week back for us Canadian teacher this week. Have fun teaching music. I remember that.
Ooh, nice.
Ba, ba, ba.